my body, my rules. You don't get to demand anything from me." The words landed like ice water down my spine. Ethan's tone was flat, eyes never leaving his phone as he stood near the window, back to me. I stood in silence, wrapped in the satin robe I had bought especially for our first-month anniversary, an evening I had imagined would bring us closer. Just 30 days married. 30 days, and not once had Ethan touched me. I'm Elise Morgan, 29, and just a few months ago, I thought I had found the kind of love that only exists in novels. Ethan proposed under a snowy gazebo in Burlington, Vermont, romantic, intimate, unforgettable. Our wedding was held in a vineyard outside Charlottesville, Virginia, elegant and filled with joy. Our guests toasted to forever. I believed them. If you're into true, emotional stories with twists you won't believe, hit that subscribe button now. What you're about to hear is unreal. But tonight, as I stood in our modern loft in downtown Minneapolis, I felt something shatter. "Ethan, we're married," I murmured, not trusting my voice. "I'm your wife." "I just don't understand why." "Don't finish that," he cut me off, finally turning to face me. The soft hazel eyes that once looked at me with warmth now radiated frustration. "Just because we're married doesn't mean you own me. Respect my boundaries." The word stung. Boundaries. Once something we discussed with care and love, now used like a wall. During the months we dated, Ethan was affectionate and gentle. He'd hold my hand at the farmer's market, dance with me barefoot in our kitchen, brush my hair from my face before kissing me goodnight. But the moment we got back from our honeymoon in Jackson Hole, everything changed. The intimacy evaporated. He slept at the edge of the bed. His touch disappeared. "This isn't what marriage is supposed to feel like," I said, stronger this time. "We're supposed to want to be close. This distance, it's not normal," he interrupted, letting out a low, humorless laugh. "Normal is respecting someone's autonomy. Not expecting things from them just because a paper says you're married." His words, technically right, felt wrong in my bones. Like he was reciting someone else's script. The man I fell in love with, the one who left love notes in my shoes, who cried when he met my dad, was gone. Replaced by someone cold, calculated. When he walked out of the room without looking back, I knew something deeper was happening. And I needed answers. The next morning, I sat alone in our sunlit kitchen, untouched tea cooling beside me. Ethan moved through his routine with the precision of a machine, checking his smartwatch, answering messages, avoiding eye contact. "I'm thinking of going to see my cousin in Santa Fe this weekend," I said. He hesitated. Just for a moment. "Sounds good. How long?" "Just until Monday." "Will you miss me?" He shrugged. "I'll manage." Not long ago, he hated even a night apart. Now, he welcomed the distance. I watched him scroll through his phone, the screen casting shadows across his face. He always claimed to work in strategic consulting, but I had never met a colleague, never heard a real work call. Later that day, I tried again. "I think we should talk to someone. A counselor." His reaction was instant. His head whipped up. There was something, fear? Anger, in his eyes. But it vanished as quickly as it came. "We're fine. Just adjusting. It's only been a month." He was too quick. Too rehearsed. I didn't believe him. So that afternoon, once he left, I opened the drawer to his home office. Not because I wanted to invade his privacy, but because my gut told me the man I married wasn't telling the truth. The room was meticulously arranged, almost too perfect. I was about to give up when I noticed a torn receipt hidden beneath a stack of printer paper. A flower shop. In Palm Springs. Dated 2 weeks ago, during the exact weekend he had claimed to be in Philadelphia for a business summit. 24 roses. On the back, a number with a California area code, written in Ethan's handwriting. My stomach turned. I snapped a photo and put everything back. That night, I drove to the address he claimed was his office, a corporate plaza on the edge of St. Paul. I had called earlier pretending to inquire about a job. No one had ever heard of him. When I saw his car arrive, I sank low in my seat. He sat inside for a while, talking on the phone, laughing. Like he didn't have a care in the world. Eventually, he entered the building, not to an office suite, but to a cafe on the ground floor. He bought a drink, sat in the corner with his laptop, and typed. But it didn't feel real. It felt staged. Like he knew I might be watching. When he finally tossed some papers and left, I followed. My heart raced the whole way home. Once inside, he jumped into the shower. That's when I saw it, his phone, charging on the nightstand. Locked. But I remembered the passcode, the date of our engagement. My fingers trembled. The screen unlocked. And there it was. Dozens of texts to someone named Vanessa. Romantic. Intimate. Confessional. Photos of the two of them in front of a small courthouse in California. Wedding bands. Arms around each other. The most recent message sent just hours earlier, counting down, baby. Soon we'll be free. My hands went numb. I forwarded everything to myself, then placed the phone back. He walked out minutes later, towel around his waist, humming like nothing was wrong. He smiled at me. Genuinely smiled. I think I'll go to bed early, I said. Good idea, he replied. Sleep well, Elise. As I lay there, eyes open in the dark, listening to him breathe beside me, I made up my mind. Tomorrow, I would get answers. The next morning, I walked into the law office of Caroline Wynn, a well-known divorce attorney in Austin, Texas. Her name came recommended by someone who knew how to handle deceit and expose the truth. And I had a feeling that truth was just beginning to unfold. As I sat across from the polished oak desk, showing her the photos and messages I had uncovered, it became clear this was more than a failed marriage. Elise, said Miranda Quinn, her voice low as she examined the evidence on my phone, what you're describing goes far beyond infidelity. This could be bigamy. The word felt like a punch to the chest. I had prepared myself for betrayal, maybe even manipulation, but not this. Not that Ethan might already be married to someone else. That's not possible, I whispered. We have a marriage license. We were married in front of over 150 people by a certified officiant at a private estate in Sonoma. Miranda nodded gravely. Legally, your marriage holds. Which makes his situation worse. If he was married before, his marriage to you isn't just voidable. It's illegal. Bigamy is a felony in California. If we can prove it, he's facing serious prison time. She picked up her phone. I'm calling someone I trust. We need a private investigator, fast. We have to verify whether this woman, Vanessa, is his legal spouse. And if that marriage predates yours, Ethan is not only a criminal, he's a con artist. That same afternoon, I found myself in a small, glass-walled office on the outskirts of Sacramento, sitting across from David Rains, a former detective turned private investigator who specialized in domestic fraud cases. In his late 50s, with a calm presence and eyes that missed nothing, he put me at ease with his first sentence. I've seen this before, he said, scribbling notes as I talked. These guys usually follow a pattern. They find someone with assets, charm them quickly, get married fast, and then maneuver into position to access their finances. I swallowed. But Ethan wasn't cold when we met. He was warm. Attentive. Romantic. David looked at me with empathy. They're chameleons. They study you. They know what to say, how to act, what you want to hear. They play the long game until they get what they want. He slid a document across the table. I want you to understand something, what we find could hurt. Are you ready to accept that this entire relationship may have been built on lies? I thought of the man who had avoided my touch for weeks, who disappeared for hours, who now looked like a stranger in my own home. I need to know the truth, I said. Even if it destroys me. David nodded. He explained the steps, full background check on Ethan Foster, a search of marriage licenses in multiple states, employment verification, and, if possible, locating Vanessa. Then, he handed me a tiny recording device. California's a one-party consent state. If he says anything incriminating, record it. I dropped it into my purse. It felt heavier than it should have. That night, I sat across from Ethan at dinner, studying his face. He was relaxed, unusually cheerful, chatting about his day like everything was fine. Every smile, every glance, every casual joke now felt like part of an act. When he excused himself to take a call in his home office, I activated the recorder and moved to the hallway. "I miss you too, babe," Ethan's voice cooed softly through the thin door. "It's almost over. I promise. Just a few more days." I pressed closer. My heartbeat was deafening in my ears. She doesn't suspect a thing. Honestly, she's been pulling away on her own, which makes it easier. I think she's about to file. Once she does, I can access the fund and transfer everything before she even notices. I froze. The trust fund. My grandmother's legacy. The prenup was brilliant, he continued, laughing quietly. She didn't read a word. Signed it because she was in love. If she files within the first year, she walks away with nothing. Meanwhile, I get half of whatever she brought in, including the inheritance. I had to brace myself against the wall. My breath was caught somewhere between rage and nausea. "And I love you too, Vanessa," he whispered. "Tell me everything. How was your shift today?" For the next 10 minutes, I listened to Ethan speak with tenderness I hadn't seen in months. He asked about her hospital coworkers, remembered names, made weekend plans. He was attentive, affectionate, everything I had begged him to be with me. When the call ended, I stepped away and shut off the recorder, hands trembling. Ethan wasn't just cheating. He had married me with the explicit intent to rob me blind. The prenup, the emotional distance, the subtle manipulation of my independence, it was all a setup. A scam. The next morning, while Ethan claimed to be meeting a client, David Rains called. "We have results," he said. "Some good, some bad. Give me the worst." Ethan Foster married Vanessa Palmer in Reno, Nevada, just over 10 months ago, 2 months before he proposed to you. Marriage is fully registered, certificate and all. I closed my eyes. It was real. He was already married. "But here's the good news," David continued. "That makes your marriage invalid. It also makes your prenup unenforceable. And with the recording you got last night, we now have clear evidence of criminal intent, marriage fraud, financial conspiracy, and bigamy. What do we do now?" "We catch him in the act," David said. "He mentioned accessing your trust soon. We let him try. With surveillance in place, we can build a bulletproof case. Are you willing to stay in this a little longer to trap him?" I thought of the man who once promised me forever and now called me a stepping stone. "Yes," I said coldly. "Let's finish this." Over the following week, David's team moved fast, tracking Ethan's every move, monitoring his phone, watching from discreet angles. What they found shocked even them. Ethan wasn't just deceiving me. He was running a pattern. "There are 3 other women," David said in our next meeting at Miranda's office. Different states. Different names. Same method, intense courtship, rapid marriage, financial targeting, then disappearance. In 2 of the cases, we believe Vanessa was involved. He handed me surveillance photos. Ethan and Vanessa smiling at a Vegas bistro. Walking hand in hand down a street in Phoenix. Leaving an apartment they clearly shared. Most damning of all, Ethan entering a bank while Vanessa waited outside. Documents in hand. "He's been using your marriage certificate and identity to pose as your legal spouse at multiple banks," Miranda explained. "He's opened accounts under your name using your social security number. He's taking out credit lines tied to your trust. He hasn't touched your main accounts yet because that would alert your bank. But he's building something dangerous in the shadows." Every word made my stomach twist. Ethan had engineered this months ago. Every kiss, every laugh, every word of love had been part of a long con. He didn't fall out of love with me. He was never in love at all. If this story is pulling you in, take a second to subscribe and turn on notifications. We share stories like this every week, and you won't want to miss what's coming next. There's something else, said David Rains, his face tense. Vanessa isn't just his wife. She's his sister. The room tilted. My breath caught. What? I managed. Vanessa Palmer was born Vanessa Foster. They've been running marriage fraud scams as a pair for at least 5 years, he explained. She stays behind, playing the role of the loyal spouse while Ethan travels and seduces wealthy women in other states. The nausea hit me like a wave. The phone calls I had overheard, the pet names, the I love yous, the courthouse photos, none of it was a love story. It was something much more twisted. An incestuous, calculated partnership built on manipulation, deception, and greed. Miranda leaned in. Elise, we have more than enough to take them both down. Ethan's facing multiple federal charges: wire fraud, mail fraud, bigamy, identity theft. Vanessa will be charged as an accomplice, David added. But we have to catch them in the act. That's the only way to lock this down. How? I asked, my voice steady despite the chaos inside me. We give them what they want, he said. You're going to file for divorce, exactly as Ethan expects. But instead of walking into his trap, we'll set our own. He thinks you'll trigger the prenup, and that he'll walk away with half your assets. Instead, federal agents will be waiting the moment he makes his move. The plan was shockingly simple. I would file, claiming emotional incompatibility, playing the part of the heartbroken woman too shattered to fight. Ethan would believe he had won, and that's when he'd act. When he tried to access the accounts he'd been setting up in secret, law enforcement would be ready. Are you prepared for what comes next? Miranda asked. Once this begins, there's no going back. Ethan will be arrested. His crimes will be public. So will your marriage. I thought of the woman I was before all this, naive, trusting, hopeful. I thought of the lies, the manipulation, the way he had used my grandmother's trust fund as bait. I'm ready, I said. Let's end this. The courthouse in Santa Clara buzzed with people on the morning I filed. But I walked up the steps with a strange calm. Miranda was beside me. David watched from across the street, communicating with the federal team stationed nearby. The night before, I had handed Ethan the divorce papers. I had played the part with conviction, shaky voice, tearful eyes, trembling hands. I'm sorry it's come to this, he'd said, pulling me into a mock embrace. Maybe this is for the best. Some space might help us both. I had recorded every word. As Miranda submitted the paperwork, my phone buzzed. David's text, he's moving. Entered Bay National Bank downtown with Vanessa. Agents in position. My heart pounded. I could see it, Ethan thinking he had won, imagining me defeated, believing the money was already his. But the trap was set. It's done, Miranda said, handing me the stamped papers. He has 30 days to respond. Though something tells me he won't get that chance. Another buzz, package delivered. Both suspects in custody. You're clear to go home. I closed my eyes. The nightmare was ending. The man who had tried to ruin me was finally facing the truth. 2 weeks later, I sat silently in the federal courtroom in San Jose, watching as Ethan and Vanessa were led in, orange jumpsuits, wrists chained, expressions hollow. Ethan's once confident swagger was gone. He looked smaller, paler, broken. The judge's voice rang out, the defendants, Ethan James Foster and Vanessa Lynn Foster, are charged with conspiracy to commit wire and mail fraud, identity theft, and bigamy. The court has received evidence of a long-running criminal scheme targeting financially independent women under the guise of legitimate marriage. When Ethan's eyes found mine, I saw it, the moment he realized I had outplayed him. The panic was instant. The mask cracked. Your Honor, his public defender began, my client pleads not guilty and respectfully requests release on bail. The prosecutor rose before he could finish. Your Honor, Mr. Foster is a proven flight risk. He's created multiple false identities, committed financial fraud across state lines, and operated with calculated intent. The government requests he be held without bail. Vanessa sat beside him, silent tears streaming down her face. It was all over, the phone calls, the courthouse photos, the lies. They weren't lovers. They were siblings. Partners in crime. The judge's voice was resolute. Given the evidence of an organized, cross-state scheme and the risk to the public, both defendants will remain in custody pending trial. As Ethan was led away, he turned one last time. His eyes didn't plead. They blamed. He couldn't believe his perfect scam had unraveled. Ethan Foster was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison for orchestrating the fraudulent marriages. Vanessa received 8 years for her role in the conspiracy. Investigators uncovered nearly $2 million stolen from victims across 7 states, funds laundered, hidden, and rerouted. Most of it was recovered and returned. And as media coverage spread, more women came forward, women who, like me, had been charmed, lied to, and nearly destroyed. His name was now infamous. His photos plastered across headlines as one of the most manipulative con artists of his kind. I didn't celebrate publicly. No press conferences. No statements. I sat at home that night with my sister and 2 close friends, eating takeout and drinking wine under soft lights. Looking back, the betrayal was deeper than anything I could have imagined. But it forced me to become someone stronger. The justice I fought for wasn't just revenge, it was protection. A message. A warning. And a victory that wasn't his to steal. The months that followed weren't easy. Healing never is. My days were quiet, often filled with long walks through my neighborhood in Palo Alto, moments spent journaling, and sessions with a therapist who helped me piece together the emotional wreckage Ethan had left behind. I didn't just grieve the man I thought I married, I grieved the version of myself who had believed in him without question. I had to learn to trust again. Not just others, but my own instincts. In the aftermath of the trial, the media eventually moved on. The headlines faded, replaced by newer scandals, fresher stories. But online, the archive remained. Ethan's name had become synonymous with calculated betrayal. His face, once charming and polished, was now attached to cautionary articles and documentaries about emotional fraud and financial abuse. Several advocacy groups reached out to me, some for interviews, others to help raise awareness about financial predators. At first, I hesitated. I didn't want to relive it. But then I thought of the other women, the ones who hadn't spoken up, who were still living in shame or fear or confusion, thinking they were alone. So I said yes. I told my story on a national podcast focused on financial scams. I joined a panel at a women's empowerment conference in Portland. I even helped launch a local support group for survivors of intimate deception. The more I spoke, the less power the trauma held over me. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about reclaiming my voice, and using it to help others find theirs. One afternoon, as I organized papers in the office I had set up in my new apartment, I found the recording device David had given me. It still worked. Still carried the voices. I hovered over the play button, unsure if I had the strength to hear it again. But I pressed it. And as Ethan's words echoed through the speaker, calculated, cruel, fake, I didn't cry. I didn't flinch. I just listened. And when it ended, I placed it in a box labeled evidence and locked it away for good. Because that's what it was now, evidence. Not a memory. Not a scar. Just proof of who he was, and who I no longer had to be. A year later, on the same date I had walked into the courthouse to file for divorce, I signed the final documents closing my grandmother's estate. The trust fund he had tried to steal was intact, untouched, and now restructured into something new. I had established the Rose Harrison Foundation, named in her honor. Its mission? to provide emergency legal and financial support to women escaping fraudulent or abusive relationships. The first grant helped a single mother in Spokane retain a lawyer to escape a coercive marriage. The second helped a college student in Austin recover funds stolen by a fake boyfriend running a crypto scam. Each story reminded me why I had survived. And as for love? I wasn't chasing it. I wasn't afraid of it either. But I had learned that real love doesn't come in fast declarations or perfect proposals. It comes in truth, patience, consistency. And most of all, it comes after you learn to love yourself again. Ethan Foster didn't just fail to destroy me. He created a version of me that he never could have predicted, strong, grounded, and untouchable. And that was the justice he would carry with him every single day of his sentence. I used to believe that betrayal was the end of a story. That once someone broke you, the only thing left was the ruin. But now, I know the truth. Betrayal isn't the end. It's the beginning of something else, something harder, yes, but stronger. Clearer. It strips away illusions, burns down the lies, and leaves you standing in front of yourself with nothing but the truth. And if you survive that, you become unbreakable. Ethan Foster will spend the next decade behind bars, locked in with his choices, his lies, and the wreckage he created. But I won't spend another second locked in with mine. I walked through fire. And I came out clean. This was never just a story about fraud. It was a story about awakening. About the power of instinct. About what happens when a woman refuses to be silenced, shamed, or stolen from. So if you're out there, doubting your gut, ignoring that quiet voice inside you, stop. Listen. Trust yourself. Because that voice? It just might save your life. If this story moved you, subscribe now and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Sometimes, one story can save another life.